Hi, this is Eli Shedd, and this is Mr. Prue's Classroom, and welcome to Crash Course Knockoff Literature. Today we're going to be talking about Macbeth. Macbeth is Shakespeare's shortest play, but also one of his most tragic. It deals with themes of revenge, guilt, and insanity, and also masculinity. In it, Shakespeare asks questions about fate, and whether you should try to, or even whether you would be able to, tamper with it. King Duncan of Scotland is told the results of a battle in his kingdom. Duncan makes Macbeth Thane of Cawdor, due to his bravery in the battle. Meanwhile, Macbeth and his friend Banquo find 3 witches. The witches tell them that Macbeth will become Thane of Cawdor, then King of Scotland, and Banquo's children will be kings too. The witches vanish, and 2 of Duncan's men enter. The 2 men tell Macbeth and Banquo that Macbeth has become Thane of Cawdor. The 4 of them all return to Duncan's castle, where Duncan names Malcolm, his son, as heir to his throne. Macbeth offers to host a party at his castle, and leaves Duncan's castle to go home. Meanwhile, Lady Macbeth has received a letter from Macbeth telling of the prophecy, and she plots to kill Duncan. At Macbeth's party, Lady Macbeth tries to convince her husband to kill Duncan and usurp his throne. That night, when everyone is sleeping, Macbeth assassinates Duncan and frames his servants for the crime. In the morning, when the crime has been discovered, Macbeth kills the servants to cover his tracks, then says he was overcome with rage at their treason. Duncan's sons run away out of fear of being assassinated next. And so, because there is no one else in line, Macbeth becomes king. Banquo suspects Macbeth, but doesn't confront him. Macbeth, fearing that Banquo was onto him, and conscious of the prophecy the witches told about Banquo, hires assassins to kill him and his son Fleance. Banquo bites it, but Fleance flees, and Macbeth returns to the witches, where he is told of a second prophecy. The witches tell Macbeth that he should beware Macduff, and that he can only die by a man that is woman-born, and that Dunsinane Castle will only fall if it is invaded by Birnam Wood. Meanwhile, Macduff has left his castle to amass an army to attack Macbeth. Macbeth sieges Macduff's castle and kills his entire family. Lady Macbeth goes insane thanks to her hand in the killings. Macduff sieges Dunsinane and Macbeth's castle, sneaking up with branches from the forest. Meanwhile, Lady Macbeth commits suicide from her insanity and her guilt, but Macbeth can't be bothered to care, as he is too focused on the battle. Macbeth then joins his soldiers on the battlefield, not afraid of dying thanks to the witch's prophecy. His soldiers defect, however, turning the tides in Macduff's favor. Macbeth confronts Macduff, who reveals he was not born of a woman, but was instead removed from his mother by a surgery. Macbeth realizes that Macduff can therefore kill him, but fights him regardless, accepting his death. Macduff kills Macbeth and cuts off his head. Then Malcolm, Duncan's son, returns and becomes King of Scotland.
Macbeth is the main character of the play who begins the play as a confident, successful war hero, but soon is confronted by the witches with the prophecy that he will become king. Macbeth first relies on the advice of others to decide his next move, which is decided for him by Lady Macbeth, who insists that in order to become king, Macbeth must first kill the current king, King Duncan. After doing this, Macbeth experiences many feelings of guilt and regret. He is haunted in his dreams, but eventually decides to repeat this action when he kills Banquo in order to preserve his own rule. He achieves the position of king, but is soon faced with conflict from the sons of Banquo and Duncan. He meets these conflicts with overconfidence from another prophecy from the witches, and believes he is invulnerable to death, which results in his carelessness and ultimately his death at the hands of Macduff. Macbeth displays both great courage and cowardice throughout the play, and shows that he is capable of thinking and planning murder without outside guidance, but also vulnerable to immense guilt, evident after he killed King Duncan.
Here we will eat our meal in fear, and sleep in the affliction of these terrible dreams that shake us nightly.
This quote is an example of Macbeth's complexity as a character, and raises the question whether he is ultimately courageous or not. The answer lies at the end of the play when Macbeth faces Macduff and is aware that the fight will kill him, but he decides to fight anyways. By doing this, proves he is truly courageous.
I will try to last. Before my body I throw my warlike sword. Lay on, Macduff.
However, it can be said that Macbeth's lack of strong character is what causes him to be unsure of himself at times, and doubt his own intentions. It is this trait that makes him unique among Shakespeare's many characters throughout his works.
Lady Macbeth is a complex character that portrays traits of manliness and ambition at the start of the play. However, as the story progresses, she changes drastically, from being a bold and ruthless woman to a deranged, guilt-ridden queen that no longer exhibits her former characteristics. An example of these character traits and changes can be seen during the time after Duncan's murder and her sleepwalking episode. After Macbeth had returned from killing the king, he was in a state of shock and guilt for what he did. Here, Lady Macbeth tells him to deal with it and that the water will be enough to wash the blood off his hands. The next time she refers to bloody hands is when she is sleepwalking around the castle and desperately washes her hands in an attempt to clean her mind of the guilt.
Wash your hands, put on your nightgown, look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Banquo's buried. He cannot come out on's grave. Oh, damn spot, out I say, 1, 2. Why then 'tis time to do it. Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him?
Shakespeare has a certain style that makes him famous, and what helps him achieve this style is his use of literary devices in his plays.
We're going to talk about his use of literary devices in Macbeth.
The first is syntax, or how he puts words together.
Shakespeare has a unique syntax in the play that can only be described as elaborate and sometimes confusing.
In the first scene of the 4th act, the phrase,
"Came they not by you?"
was said, which oddly resembles the way Yoda talks in Star Wars.
Why couldn't Shakespeare just say, "They didn't come by you"? Well, there's an answer to that. His syntax is formed in those ways in order to fit iambic pentameter.
Iambic pentameter is just a fancy word for a line in poetry with a pattern of one short syllable followed by one long syllable.
So basically, the majority of Macbeth is just one big poem. The only time iambic pentameter isn't used is when a dumb or useless character is speaking, and that emphasizes their unimportance.
Shakespeare also uses soliloquies, which is when characters speak out loud the thoughts going on in their heads. It's necessary in a play so that the actors let the audience know what they're thinking.
He often used it to create dramatic scenes for his main characters, such as the famous Lady Macbeth speech, in which she declares she wants to be less of a woman in order to kill Duncan.
Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctions, visitings of nature, shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it.
The speech allowed the audience to see the complexity of this character, as well as her evil way of thinking.
Metaphors are also used to make simple ways of saying things more sophisticated.
They make the play intriguing and further push the poetry essence.
Our favorite metaphor in this play is the one about sleep Macbeth said.
The innocent sleep, sleep that knits up the raveled sleeve of care, the death of each day's life, sore labor's bath, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast.
Even today, anyone can relate to that metaphor. Sleep is awesome, and Shakespeare did a great job explaining the significance of it.
Shakespeare likes to use irony to capture the attention of the audience and make the play more dramatic.
When Macbeth says he's worried Banquo won't show up to the banquet, he's lying and knows he won't show up because he's having him murdered. However, Shakespeare made things funny and had the ghost of Banquo make an appearance to haunt Macbeth.
More irony used in the play was when Macbeth was given the prophecy that he can't be killed by a man born of a woman. But Macbeth is thoroughly disappointed when Macduff declared he wasn't born of a woman, rather by a C-section surgery. Therefore, he could kill Macbeth.
In fact, all of the witches' prophecies for Macbeth are ironic, because they also said Macbeth won't meet his doom unless the forest starts moving.
Seems impossible, so Macbeth was relieved. But the army coming to attack Macbeth's kingdom disguised themselves with tree branches, thus moving the forest and fulfilling the prophecy.
The last literary device that we're going to talk about is the rhyming done by the witches.
Their famous chant is both creepy and literary art.
Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Fillet of penny snake in the cauldron, boil and bake. Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog. Adder's fork and blindworm sting, lizard's leg and howlet's wing. For a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth boil and bubble. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire